Hi there, welcome to Nepi Invest. In today's Appendix 4C video, we're going to be looking at one of the highest quality companies that is still releasing quarterly reports, and that is Ansarada. And Ansarada did list on the ASX about 2 years ago, and they're still releasing these quarterly reports, even though the company is operating cash flow positive, free cash flow positive, and profitable. More than likely, within the next year, I imagine the company will be told by the ASX you are no longer required to release these quarter reports because this company is profitable. Now, they could still release quarterly reports because it is up to the discretion of management. There are a few companies that still release quarterly reports, even though they have been told by the ASX you're no longer required to do that. Clinuvel is one of those companies. Fiducian Group is another one of those companies. They don't release a quarterly report every single quarter, only when they're not releasing a half yearly or yearly report, which is really interesting. So who knows, Ansarada management could decide just to continue releasing quarterly reports for full transparency to their shareholders, to their owners. So let's get stuck into this video and talk about what Ansarada actually does. Ansarada, in my opinion, is one of the highest quality companies that is releasing quarterly reports. And Ansarada's story goes back to about 2005, when a couple of accountants realized the need for a virtual data room. So, a virtual data room seems to be quite important, particularly in those mergers and acquisitions. So, in a merger and acquisition, you've got two parties in that transaction, and both parties probably want to see some financial data or even any sort of data from the other company. And that's where a virtual data room comes into play. So, these two accountants got involved with a software developer and an entrepreneur, and they developed Ansarada. More than likely, they got together one day and thought, what are we going to name this company? And then someone just said, what if we just name the company after the first two initials in our names, Ansarada, hence the name Ansarada. And that was the beginning of this company. Now, to a few other facts in regards to Ansarada. The company was founded again in 2005, and the company listed on the ASX on the 9th of December 2020. Now, it was via another company called the Dockyard. It wasn't really a backdoor listing, if I remember correctly, because the Dockyard actually acquired Ansarada, but Ansarada was the biggest company, and then Dockyard changed its name to Ansarada. So it was virtually, not quite, but virtually a backdoor listing. The current CEO is Sam Riley, and that's the entrepreneur. So remember, there was two accountants, the software developer, and the entrepreneur is the co-founder. One of the other biggest shareholders is Andrew Slavin, and I believe that is the software developer. He has 7.4% stake in the company, and Net Wealth has a 4.8% stake. The current market of Ansarada is 157 million. That's at a share price of $1.76. The last time I did a video, so about 3 months ago, the share price was at $1.76. So the share price has not changed in the last 3 months. However, share price has been as low as about $1.30. And the ticker code is a quite bland AND. Now on to the Appendix 4Cs for Ansarada. And before we have a look at the financial year 22 June quarter, just going to want to go back 1 year ago just to see how this company has performed over the past year. Now, again, this company is one of the highest quality companies, in my opinion, that is still releasing Appendix 4Cs. And we can just see that with the amount of cash flow this company is producing in their operation. So 1 year ago, receipts to customers 11.1 million, and they were operating cash flow positive by 2.6 million for the quarter, and for the full financial year, 4.5 million. The other thing, the company is or does have a fair bit of cash on hand. At the end of financial year 21, the company had $22.6 million of cash. Now, just because they were operating cash flow positive by 2.6 million, we also, and I would like to take into account intellectual property. This company does spend 1.2 million, or around about $1 million, on intellectual property every single quarter. Now, intellectual property in this case is research and development, I think. That's what I think it is, because I've done a little bit of research in this topic, because I'm trying to understand what intellectual property is in the investing, or could be financing activities section. And I found some research that shows that it's more than likely, or it is research and development. So I'm thinking the intellectual property is research and development, even though they spent $94,000 in research and development in the operating activities. So it's just the way it is viewed, whether it is capitalized or expense. That's the difference between where they put the research and development in the cash flow statement. I am not an accountant. Could be completely wrong in regards to how they deal with research and development. But the main thing here is every single quarter, they are spending about $1 to $1.2 million on intellectual property. So let's have a look at how this company did perform in the June quarter for financial year 22. We also can have a look at how they performed for the full financial year 22 just by looking at the second column in their operating activities section. So here is the June quarter results for Ansarada, and things are progressing really nice for this company. Receipts up $2.1 million compared to 1 year ago. So nice, steady growth in receipts, in revenue for this company. Now, the next thing to look at here is how is spending increasing as well. So are the costs increasing at a greater rate or a slower rate than receipts? And what we want to see is spending growing at a slower rate than receipts. That is telling us the company has found scale, and that is very important for the company moving forward. We have seen, or I do look at a lot of these quarterly cash flow reports, and I do see a lot of tech companies who are spending more or increasing their spending more than the increase in receipts. And that actually is a significant negative in my book. So let's have a look at Ansarada. Receipts up 2.1 million, product manufacturing operating costs up 250,000, advertising marketing costs up 600,000, admin costs up 600,000, staff costs actually down $200,000. So altogether, the growth in spending is not as much as the growth in receipts. So the company is more operating cash flow positive in this quarter than they were 1 year ago. And in this quarter, it was $3.2 million. They're still spending a little bit of money on intellectual property, 1.1 million. Remember, I said they're spending about $1 million per quarter on intellectual property. They also spent $220,000 on property, plant, and equipment. So we'll call that capital expenditure. So they are spending a little bit of money on or in investing and financing activities. So that $3.2 million in operating cash flow is not all going to the bottom line. And that's why cash on hand actually only increased in this quarter by $1.3 million. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to mention here is if we do look at the year to date, receipts to customers $52.7 million, and Ansarada were operating cash flow positive for the full financial year to June of $12.2 million. So that is operating cash flow, free cash flow. I would like to take away capital expenditure and the intellectual property. And if we do take that away, their free cash flow is around about $7 to $8 million. But that's pretty good for a company that is still issuing Appendix 4Cs. Now onto the receipts history for Ansarada, and we have 7 quarters of history for this company. I've mentioned in other videos, I prefer to see at least 8 quarters of history before I judge whether the trend in cash receipts is up, down, or going sideways. With 7 quarters, we're almost there, and the trend is up for Ansarada. We've seen receipts grow from 9.4 million in the December quarter 2020 to 13.3 million. Now, if you were short-sighted, you might just look at the last 3 quarters and think receipts are starting to go backwards. We have seen receipts drop over the last few quarters, but that's a very short-term trend. It's not the long-term trend. And I'm really interested and only interested in the long-term trends. One of the other things I'm trying to understand about this company is how cyclical their business is, because they're dealing with mergers and acquisitions and those sort of things. And I'm wondering if during downturns in the economy, where the mergers and acquisitions are less common, and if so, Ansarada would be affected by that. So there is a possibility that Ansarada is a cyclical sort of company, and when we see a really good bull market, this company is absolutely going to thrive. But we're in a bear market, there is a possibility that this company could be suffering or not performing as well. So it's good to say that the company is still operating cash flow positive, even though we have been in a fairly slight bear market over the past 6 months or so, but things look like they are turning around. I won't absolutely confirm that just yet, but the company is still in an uptrend. When you look at their receipts, they're still profitable, still operating cash flow positive, still free cash flow positive. Now onto the chart for Ansarada. Interesting looking chart. This goes all the way back to the start of 2021. If we go further back in history here, we're actually looking at a dockyard, which was a completely different business. So I just want to focus on the period of time when Ansarada was Ansarada, not the dockyard. There wasn't not a lot of hype in this company after they did backdoor onto the ASX. In fact, the share price fell all the way down to a low of about $1 back in April, May of 2021. Even back then, I didn't know much about this company. Share price was dropping. They had started to release Appendix 4Cs, but I want a little bit more history in regards to the company. But then the hype, no, I won't say hype, but the sentiment in this company started to shift in the middle of 2021. And we saw the share price rally quite well from about $1 all the way to a high of about $2.65, which was reached in February this year. And then we saw sentiment shift around because there was concerns about the economies, about the market. And that's why the share price of this company fell from about $2.65 to a low of about $1.27, which was reached in June. But it looks like the short-term downtrend we did see for a few months is starting to turn around. Whether this is start of another uptrend in the share price remains to be seen. I think this will be highly dependent, whether it does, is going to be highly dependent on what happens in the overall economy. And I have no idea what's going to be happening in the overall economy, in the markets, equity markets around the world. Everyone's really excited. Not, I wouldn't say really excited, but everyone's excited that inflation wasn't that high the other day, or it was not as high as they were expecting in the United States. And so they're now expecting this increasing interest rates over the past few months, this rapid increasing interest rates is working its charm, and we won't be seeing the economies moving into recession, those sort of things. Inflation is going to fall back, but I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the future about where we're heading. So I'm not sure what the markets are going to do from here on in. I'm neither bullish nor bearish at this point in time, which means I'm probably neither bullish nor bearish on Ansarada looking at the share price. I'm actually a little bit bullish looking at the overall company. And I think if you held Ansarada for 5 to 10 years, I think there is a good chance the share price and the valuation of this company will be higher than it is now. That's all I have for this video on Ansarada, looking at their Appendix 4C for the June quarter. Potentially one of the last Appendix 4Cs this company will release. I'm still waiting in regards to a notification from the company that they are no longer required to release Appendix 4Cs because this company is profitable, operating cash flow positive, seems like for at least a year or so. And usually there's a certain amount of quarters that the company has to be operating cash flow positive before the ASX tells them they are no longer required to issue these quarterly reports. If you have any questions, any thoughts, concerns about Ansarada, love to hear them, so leave them in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, I'm not a financial advisor. If you do need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.